Bruh. It episode 6, Welcome to Derry, in the name of the Father, really hit us with that, hey, y'all want some answers? And then dumped us with an entire suitcase of lore like it was TSA at the airport. I mean, Ingrid with full clown simp mode, friendships crumble harder than my willpower in the zebra cage. And by the end, we had some mass clansmen pulling up to the black spot on some Purge Jim Crow edition. Let's go. So the episode kicks off in 1935, Juniper Hill, and we see Ingrid, and we basically learned this episode that she's basically just been Pennywise, the emotional DoorDash driver. She's just out here delivering kids like they Happy Meals, and her father is the toy inside of it. We do see Ingrid leading a little girl named Mabel down to the basement, and obviously Mabel is looking like, she's concerned. She don't really want to go, but Ingrid is telling her, don't be scared and things like that. So we end up seeing the red balloon pop up, as we all know is foreshadowing a Pennywise appearance. And then lo and behold, there he goes in the tunnel, just big chilling, and boom, intro play. Now, we do see more of this elaborated later on in the episode, but we basically find out that Mabel was telling one of the nurses that, hey, she hears clowns in the pipes. Pennywise is telling me to come down to the basement at night. And obviously, the nurse is like, child, please. Take your drugs. Clowns only live at the circus. There's no clown in the pipes. You tripping. But hell, Ingrid is outside the room eavesdropping, like, oh, word? That sounds legit. Let me see what she's talking about. So Ingrid ends up taking Mabel downstairs to the basement to meet this Pennywise the clown, because that was the name of her father, who was, Bob Gray, aka Pennywise the dancing clown, who the entity was like, yeah, that identity, let me take it. So to her, only thing that she knows that her father was taken. She didn't elaborate on whether or not he was, committed to Juniper Hills or if he was killed or not, but she just said he was taken away. So when she hears Pennywise, obviously that raises her eyebrows. So that's why she initially wasn't doing this maliciously. Like the first time this go around with Mabel, it wasn't one of those situations to where she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm finna feed you to my pops. She genuinely was just trying to see her dad again because, obviously, like if you out here saying that you saw my pops, and I need to know what the hell's going on with that. So Pennywise ends up showing up with the balloon, and he gives it to Mabel, and he's like, and you brought a friend. And looks up at Ingrid, and she's like, and he looked at her like, oh, that's right. You're the daughter of my favorite form. I can use this. He did that creepy yet hilarious Pennywise walk that he always does and started chasing them. So just like always, the dumbass child ends up falling and tripping over, and then they ended up getting separated. Bruh. The noises and sounds that was made when Pennywise was eating Mabel was just absolutely disgusting. It sounded like he was eating a bucket of Rudy's chicken after waiting in line for 2 hours. So obviously Ingrid is like, hey, yo, this is not what I came down here for. But Pennywise, being the asshole that he is, ended up reappearing as her father, Bob Gray in his human form. He got big ass fucking head. Yeah. He was like, don't be afraid. Everything is gonna be all right. I've missed you. Just let me in. Hey, one time for Bray Wyatt. And then once she opens up the door, the scene ends up changing. But we basically learned that from that point on, she's been basically feeding him kids just to get the opportunity to maybe see him show up, because she thinks that if he sees her in her Periwinkle outfit, then everything that he's been through will break him free of like the Pennywise curse. And oh, baby girl, your father is gone, son. We also find out that it was actually her that was following the Losers Club around the cemetery. So which would also explain why none of them actually died, at least from the clown. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as the dead spirits go, that's a whole nother thing. And it was actually Periwinkle that was outside of Will's window. And that's who showed up in the picture, which we kind of like assumed that it was for the most part anyway. But yeah, just getting that confirmation, and when Lily asked her, why in the hell would you do this? She was like, wouldn't you do anything to see your father again? And she was like, shit, my daddy dead, fam. He out here looking like Jigsaw from the Punisher Warzone movie and things like that. Like, look, I feel where you coming from, but I don't feel where you coming from. But I will say that the way that they describe Ingrid's backstory in this season, it kind of basically is telling you that she's basically just a normal girl who misses her father at this point. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, she's taking daddy issues to a whole nother level. But at the same time, this is literally what she's doing all this for now. I'm not really sure if Pennywise gave her like any extended life or anything like that. Because I know, like I think in chapter 2, also before they killed him, he was like, "Hey, like I'll give y'all extended life if y'all just let me be. But obviously they wasn't trying to hear that. So I mean, we do see Mrs. Curse in It Chapter 2, like old as hell, but that also could have just been like Pennywise, taking Ingrid's form. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens to Ingrid, to be honest with you. Like she still ain't shit. But Pennywise is basically using her like he did with Henry in the It movies, kind of making her, like do his bidding for him and, making it easy for like fear to build up even quicker and even more, in the town of Derry, which is already like fucked up before any type of influence was even needed. We transitioned over to Leroy just basically auditioning for the bad dad Olympics because he's yelling at Will, basically blaming him for Polly dying. Supposed to be down there. If y'all wouldn't have been down there, then I wouldn't have to shoot him. Even though we all know that is a damn lie. Like Pennywise would have found, bruh, he literally turned into your wife and made you shoot her. So what makes you think Leroy, you tripping, bro? But he basically told Will, hey, bro, you are safer in the town of Derry because it doesn't have any influence, saying outside the town, which isn't really true. Like, he doesn't have like the full guy like abilities like he does like in town, but he can like, have a little influence outside of it. But Will is like respectfully, no, I can't do that. Well, he didn't really say respectfully, he just flat out said, fuck no. I can't do that. I got friends that need me now. Like, this is the type of man you are. Like, I'm trying to be like you. And so Leroy is like, you can't be me. You are not me. So I'll say this. The reaction to what Will said may have been excessive to some, but for somebody like me, I understand because Will basically clapped back was like,
yeah, I know that. I know about you because I would never let my friends die.
hey, yo, Leroy slapped the shit out of Will, bro. And look, I've been called an asshole, so I definitely laugh because you can't say no shit like that. Like your pops is already not right in the head. You already know that Pennywise has already got influence in there, and the town is like already going ape shit. So you can't clap back and be disrespectful because you was already pushing him when you told him no. You can't honor the request of, what I'm saying, not leaving the base or, not telling him before you leave. So you can't say no shit like that after he done shot his best friend, you know what I'm saying? That you was asking to get your ass punched. Obviously, Charlotte was like, damn, that's enough. Leroy trying to apologize, but Will is like,
It's good to hear it.
No. Come here, son.
Get away from me.
so we see the Losers Club chilling at the standpipe, and then Lily ends up telling them what happened between her and Pennywise, and that he's basically scared of the shark because once it started glowing and he got near it, he backed away. So now she want to go back down there all G.I. Jane and shit on some. I think if we take the shark and we stand together, then we can kill it. Ronnie looked at her and was like, are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, you want us to go back down there after you almost got us killed the first time? Like, yeah, you really are crazy. And as we all know, the C word is one thing that you cannot call Lily because she was like, oh, word? All I did was try to help you out. And Ronnie was basically on some, yeah, but if your ass when he came up to my house in the first place, then hell, Teddy and Maddie and them might still be alive. My pops wouldn't be on the run, and we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. Hey man, but one time for the MVP of this episode to me was Rich because he obviously was like, hey, yo, this is what the entity wants. He wants us to turn against each other. And yo, Ronnie was like, yeah, I mean, that's all cool and all, but they shouldn't have let her crazy ass out of Juniper Hills, and she just stormed out. One thing about this that I did find interesting though is Lily's reaction when Will tried to touch the shard because she went full because she was not trying to let nobody touch the shard, yo. And then when you see Ronnie start to snap at her a little bit, she started to grip the shard. I don't know if that was foreshadowing what she was going to end up using it later on in the episode, or it could be one of those situations to where maybe the shard is kind of like letting out some negative energy as well. It's kind of making them go even crazier. And maybe the person that's holding it, what I'm saying, is even worse for them. Because we did see it wrapped up in the cloth. So that way, nobody was physically touching because even when she handed it to Tanny, I think it was wrapped up as well. So maybe that's the reason Lily was acting even crazier than she already is. But yeah, I found that interesting when watching this. Now we headed back over to the black spot and we see our boy Halloran looking for some liquor. You know what I'm saying? Like for the shining that he got going on, that's like Tylenol after a migraine to him. He is trying to do everything he can to duel it because after the last episode, Pennywise unlocked his psyche light box, and yeah, that man is going through the ringer right now. But you see him chopping it up with Jackson. They telling him like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna have some ladies over, we're gonna have some music going. It's about to be lit tonight. And Dick was like, I mean, that's cool, but I'm finna go in the back and take a nap real quick. But they hit him with that. We find out that Hank is hiding out at the black spot because, he ended up escaping a bus crash and he's basically on some America's Most Wanted shit. They are looking to kill him. I mean, you saw like townspeople, you know what I'm saying, loading up weapons and just. I also find it interesting that every time you see like some crazy, evil, angry stuff going on, you saw that same damn red truck going on, basically letting you know that Pennywise influence is like in this particular area right here. But as we saw at the end of the last episode, Ingrid pulled up to the base and, met up with Charlotte and was like, hey, we got a mutual friend. So we found out that it was actually Charlotte who ended up hiding Hank there at the black spot. And Dick was like, y'all leave me up out of this, bro. I do not have time for this shit right now. Like, obviously, he can't tell him why he don't want to be a part of it, but he was like, nah, come on, bro. Like, they are looking for him. Y'all out here playing with fire. Now, once again, like if y'all watch any of my other videos, y'all know that Charlotte is my favorite character. Like I was going back and forth between her and Halloran, but yeah, Charlotte is number one for me. But I died laughing when she pulled up after Will and Ronnie kind of had like a moment after, the argument at the standpipe. They was hugging and looking each other eye, basically establishing like a future relationship or whatever. And hey, yo, this is one thing that I love. It's a small detail, but this is some real Black mama shit. You know that she is either irritated or upset with you when she calls you by your full government name.
William Dubois Hanlon, get your disobedient behind in this car right now.
I'm talking about middle name included. And she was like,
y'all think y'all grown?
But she ended up taking them up to the black spot so Ronnie can see her pops. And I ain't gonna lie, the reunion between the father and daughter was very good to see. Like Charlotte asked Willie, you want to talk about what happened between him and Leroy? He was like, nah, I ain't. We did see a lot of Rich and Marge together this episode. We see them here at the standpipe and we see Marge redressing her bandage on her eye. Rich was like, hey, I can help you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a little trick, so I can take the bandage off without it hurting. And then obviously Marge is kind of insecure about it and things like that. But Rich was like, hey, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, look, literally, he is in love with this girl. So a jacked up eye, especially for like a kid like that, is just like some of the coolest shit that he's ever seen in his life. But boom, after he said that, you can instantly see Mars start to be like, oh, okay, it's not that bad after all. Which I theorized, I think it was like in my episode 2 video when I was like, hey, as soon as something happens to her eye, all of a sudden Rich is gonna be way more attracted to her. And boom, it happened. One thing this episode really did a good job of doing is establishing relationships, Will and Ronnie, and then you have Rich and Mars. So it's just fantastic to see, which is gonna make it even more tragic when Rich ends up dying. Like I know that Ronnie is named after one of Pennywise's victims, but considering they made changes, to the story like so far, because if I'm not mistaken, Hank is the original character specifically for the show, which kind of makes sense considering that he's mostly the catalyst for the Black Spot event, which is, the augury event for Pennywise. So I think that's very interesting. So I'm thinking, well, I'm hoping that Ronnie ends up growing up and her and Will are actually Mike's parents. Now, granted, we know what happens to Mike's parents in the future, but at least in the context of this show for right now, I'm just hoping that they let her live and they end up having their happy ending because look, I'm expecting Lily to get a lobotomy and I'm expecting Rich to be dead. As we all know, Mars ends up, naming Richie, after Rich. So 9 times out of 10, he's not gonna make it. Hey, no lie, after what happened to Polly, it's starting to make more and more sense on why Leroy ended up becoming that old dude that was taking care of Mike and, owning the slaughterhouse like that we see in the It movies. Because, he pulled up on Halloran on some, hey, we got more orders from General Shaw. He wants to go after the pillars again. And, obviously Dick is like, I mean, that makes sense, but we need to leave this shit alone. So Hanlon asked Halloran, like, hey, like, what happened down there in the tunnels? I mean, you was down there for hours, bro. So, like, you good? And then we get the shining lore dump of the episode. He ends up telling Leroy the backstory about his shining ability, letting him know, like, hey, Me and my grandma, we got this ability. Like hers wasn't as powerful as mine, but she taught me this lockbox trick, which is what I was talking about basically like in the last couple of episodes. Like they go into further details about it in the novel in Doctor Sleep because he teaches Danny this trick also. He teaches him like a more advanced version of it. So he can like trap individual memories in like separate lock boxes. So they're not all just in one big lockbox like it is, well, like it was for Dick. So that, yeah, that's a strong shit. But he tells Hamlin back when I was 9, I learned that psychic lockbox trick and I closed that motherfucker. And now Pennywise was laughing as he opened it. And yeah, bro, I'm over all of this at the moment. He's sitting here spilling his guts and brain out to Leroy, telling him, like, hey, bro, I see dead people. They know things that we are not supposed to know. And you know what this Leroy did? And I ain't gonna lie, if I was Dick, I would have been pissed off too, because I'm sitting here telling you all of this, and your natural response is, oh, well, just talk to him and ask him anyway. And you can probably, lock this shit back up. You did it when you was a child. You'll be fine. Like, fam, you don't even know if this is true or not. You're just saying shit for your own personal gain. And so, yeah, Dick was called him a bootlicker, and Leroy was like, hey, I'm still your superior, which sounds like some shit a bootlicker would say. So obviously, Helen was like, get the fuck out of my room, and Helen over here on some, well, you can either do your duty or get taken out of here in handcuffs. You decide. So I'm wondering if his refusal to do this is what makes him end up going to go work at the Overlook Hotel that we see him in at The Shining. Hey, Leroy was going through it this episode because he could not catch a break because he ended up going to the crib and we see Charlotte end up packing the bag and he's asking, where's Will at? She's like, with his friends. She's just probably the only people that he can trust right now. And to be honest with you, I don't even blame him because you got us out here in a cage with a goddamn monster. Now, in Hamlin's defense, he didn't know. So that's the only pass I'm gonna give him when it comes to Charlotte. But he ended up apologizing for what happened earlier. He was doing pretty good. And then he ended up saying some goofy shit, talking about something I'm trying to do and protect this country. Bro, do you really think Charlotte gives a damn about the country right now? Like, respectfully, you got us in here in a very dangerous situation, fam. Your son does not like you at the moment. I don't give two shits about you trying to protect the country. You need to be worried about protecting this household and being a better relationship with your son. You already don't know him. You already want him to play sports. He don't give a damn about sports. He's trying to be Bill Nye the Science Guy. She basically told him, look, it's a lot of stuff you don't know. I put Hank Rogan up in the black spot. I'm gonna get him out of town, and then as soon as I get him out of town safely, me and Will, we going back to Louisiana with or without you. Which I mean, obviously it was without. So we head back over to the school, and we see Lily in her classroom chilling, minding her own business, and then boom, Pickle Daddy shows up. Obviously, he's in class freaking out, bro. We see the shower light up and everything, and the teacher was like, "Lily, sit your crazy ass down right now." But here's my question though, because the shore was lighting up because obviously Pennywise was there. Did nobody else in the class see the shore light up? And it was just Lily because if anything, y'all ain't wondering what the hell she got in her hand right now. Hey man, listen, we got more scenes with Rich and Mars together. And like I said earlier, Rich was definitely the MVP of this episode because this time we see them at school having lunch together and they're discussing how they're hearing voices in the pipes, which is a nod to Beverly from the It movie. So Rich is like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable using the bathroom. So Marge is like, what you been doing? Just holding it, dog. So Rich is basically out here describing him having a pee bottle. And you know what? One time for Mars, because she was like, hey, you know what? They used to do that back in the day. And then, Knights used to end up, rescuing fair maidens. So boom, you know what I'm saying? You good to go. You want some nice shit right now. Don't be ashamed of it. So he ends up giving her an eye patch and she out here looking like Marjorie from the Yakuza games. And that's when the patty case pulled up. The Marjorie was like, hey, you may have been ignoring us, but look, you had a near-death experience. You survived. Why don't you come over here and tell us about it at the patty cake table and leave these freaks alone? And you know what? Look, I have been one of the hardest people on Mars when it came to her character. But this episode right here, she definitely won me over because she stood up, ripped off her eye patch and said, guess what, nigga? I am a freak. And it made them freak the hell out. I think one of them even threw up a little bit. Gave me great satisfaction seeing that. I feel like this is where any theories that anybody may have had about Ingrid / Mrs. Curse has been validated. Literally pulling up to Ingrid's home and she's knocking and nobody's answering. So instead of just leaving her waiting, she just decides to let her happy ass in. Bro, imagine you surviving a Pennywise attack and then you end up dying because you get shot for just going to somebody's house because the door was unlocked. But bro, she basically ended up seeing the goddamn Pennywise photo album. You know, we saw Bob Gray back in 1908, the original form, and Ingrid as a child. She ended up seeing the Periwinkle outfit, and she just basically started putting things together and making the connections and dialogue. When Ingrid pulled up in that mud, rising up the attic like the Undertaker or some shit, and asking Lily, like, what are you doing here? That's when everything started to come out. Yeah, man, one of the worst things Lily could have done was tell her what happened in the tunnels and telling her that she ended up seeing Pennywise. Bruh, when I tell you, Ingrid's eyes lit up. She was so happy to hear that Lily was the one that saw him. She was like, oh my God, it was you. Of course it was you that brought him back. Because like I said earlier, Ingrid just basically just been feeding kids to Pennywise just in the hopes of seeing him again. So that way she can dress up in her periwinkle outfit and maybe that'll be all that he needs to break free. I know I said that earlier, but I gotta say it again. Do you know how stupid that sounds when you say it out loud? He's gonna see me in this old ass clown outfit. Because my next question is, you didn't think about doing that shit beforehand? But here's why I called Ingrid a hoe earlier, because we end up finding out that Chief Bowers ended up getting the tip about the location of where Hank Rogan was at the black spot. And the only people that knew was Charlotte and Ingrid. And we also find out that it was Ingrid that ended up calling in the tip because she wants to create an augury event, which is, the bloody grand finale before Pennywise end up going back to sleep for 27 years. And her hope is that she can finally see him fully dressed up as the dancing clown. And that way he can remember the love they shared and she'll get a happy ending. I think that she is going to fucking die. But I knew it. I had a damn feeling that Hank messing with her was going to end up leading to the black spot being burnt down. See, Hank, didn't Dr. Umar tell you not to be out here trying to be no snow bunny slayer? Because nothing says I'm helping out my father, the cosmic murder clown, like enabling a racist arson mob. But that's also why we see her dressing up in the periwinkle outfit at the end of the episode on some let the games begin type shit. So back at the black spot, we see Will, Marge, and Rich trying to convince Ronnie once again to go back down there in the sewer to help fight Pennywise because they are all stronger together. And Ronnie is like,
fuck no. No.
but also rightfully so, though. She literally just got her dad back. Why would she want to get separated from him again with everything that's going on? If anything, you would want to spend your last moments with your family. Like, fuck that clown. So Will is on some look. I know she's stubborn, but I am too. So he ends up going in the room to talk to Hank and Ronnie together. And it started with him trying to convince her, and then it ended up turning into Hank being the loving, concerned father that he is on some.
You have a new gentleman friend. I'm your father. I should know him a little better.
Hey, look, man, I respect it, especially with everything that's going on. But I also love the fact that his first question to Will was,
what's your favorite movie?
Which we would have the perfect response because it was War of the Worlds. It also goes into the theme of, aliens coming down to Earth and basically just fucking shit up. But hey, man, Hank was like, hey, you know what? If something does happen to me, I'm glad that it's somebody like you with your character that'll be here to look after my daughter. Which, once again, it was a nice bonding moment. And then Will had to ruin it because he did the one thing that you're not supposed to do in any horror, movie, or TV show. He told Ronnie and Hank,
Nothing's gonna happen to you or Ronnie, sir. Not on my watch.
and that is a damn lie because you couldn't even protect yourself from your dad. He was quick as hell with that right hand and you failed. So what are you going to do against a cosmic clown, bro? Hey, look, we only got, 2 episodes left after this, so I got to give my boy Rich all his props while I still can. But he easily had one of my favorite scenes of the episode because, they was in there chilling, minding their own business, him and Marge out there chopping it up. Hey, shout out to Rich, though, because Marge was like, yeah, I think we should wait outside. Rich was like, shit, we good right here. You know what I'm saying? This type of juke joint I've been looking for. But they end up drinking some airport coke, and I think it was the trumpet player. He saw some drumsticks in Rich's pocket and was like, hey, can you play? Our drummer is passed out right now. I'm talking about he was on the couch just sleep. Hey man, Rich had the whole damn place lit, fam. He was like 12 years old, and he after a beast on the drums. It is such a shame that we won't see what would happen if he would have grew up and learned how to continue to play. Hey, dog, the black spot was jumping, man. Rich was on them drums. They was playing that piano. The girls up there scatting away on the microphone. Hey, it reminded me of that scene in Sinners when Sammy was on playing the guitar and just, yeah, man, just black music. I just love how positive everything is at the black spot right now. You know what I'm saying? The kids are having fun. They on rum and coke. I mean, Hank is there with his daughter. I mean, Charlotte and Leroy got their issues, but that's out there. Because we all know anything something good like this is going on, it is definitely finna get terrible for them. And yeah, bro, just fire. So episode 6 finally connected Ingrid, Pennywise, the Augury event, and the Black Spot together. And if you know your It Lord, yeah, we are in for a historical trash event, but it does end up shaping everything from the novel to the movie. So, I mean, here we are. Go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on episode 6 of It Wasn't the Derry. Also, do you think that Ingrid took daddy issues too literally, though? Or do you just think that Pennywise is like the worst father figure since Darth Vader? Because, like, yo, fam, just that little maniacal laugh that he made when she called him Papa. Yeah, just once again, say it with me. Pennywise, you are a hoe. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button before Pennywise open up his psychic lockbox, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.